the more we can feel that we're almost going, rotating and getting our scapula squeezed, and then feel, okay, how do I tilt my hands? Look at my hands, level, tilted. So many people, when they think turn behind the ball, do this. Move the shoulder. They think the shoulders turn. Now, don't do that if you want to be successful. What we want to do is make sure we tilt, turn, extend, left bend. It sounds an awful lot, it's not. And rotate our rib cage correctly. So the only thing we want to turn is our rib cage. So our rib cage wants to rotate, and in order to facilitate that to the top of the swing, we have to then left bend, because we want to make sure our shoulder points down, and that gives us the right tilt. If we don't do that part, we don't hit the ground consistently unless we're a magician. So many people will talk about turning and turning behind the golf ball. We have to understand how we turn correctly. So if I just turn, you'll see how flat my shoulder turn actually is. I've actually made a turn there using my rib cage. If I just turn my shoulders, that's such a false turn. There's no power coming from that, and there's no sequence from that. So if I went from there and tried to start down, I'm going to be way ahead of it with my sternum and torso, that I'm going to come over the top, or I'm going to stall and then stand up and flick. None of which are very powerful or efficient. So in order to become efficient and successful, we want to turn the correct way. We have to get this shoulder down to the golf ball in order to get that golf club to be able to hit that ground and hit that ball into contact. And the only way we can get that shoulder to go down to the golf ball is by side bending, and I call it left bend. So it's a left lateral bend this way. Then what we would do is rotate our rib cage, and if we need to finish off the backswing a bit, then we go a bit more chest up, which is the back extension. So if I ask you just to throw a ball, you probably would do that quite natural. So it's quite a natural skill. When we break it down to left bend, rotation and extension, it sounds an awful lot. The premise in this video is I don't want you to turn your shoulders. I want you to rotate and side bend are the two critical things, your rib cage. So if we think of our hip and our rib, that area there needs to shorten as we make a turn. To facilitate the turn, the trail hip is going to work up and back and almost get back to the ball line. That helps free up the rib cage. So depending how flexible we are, it depends how much this rib cage can move without anything else happening. So if I go rib cage rotation, and for example, to get the shoulder down, left bend, and then let the hips and knees move, I get pretty close to where I want to be. So in order to sequence that properly, obviously the club's going to be moving back. I would feel a bit of left bend early on and the right hip move early on for me. That allows me the space and room to rotate. I am not the most flexible of guys in the world. I'm not in great shape, as people keep telling me. I'm not very flexible, so I have to rotate with other areas to make my body work. But I get a fairly full backswing with a little bit of cheating. I have a little bit too much extension in my body. So definitely for me, feeling the left bend or the side bend left is a good thing for me to feel in order just to get what we would class as a good turn. It's almost feeling like I go left first, then let my hips and rib cage move. And it's important we feel this area moves and the shoulders feel almost like they're pinned back on my blades to give me that feel. You know, the old-fashioned stuff would be kind of like this. Put the club behind your back. But we want to get this shaft to point down and rotate like that. So my mid-range, mid-thoracic range is not as good as it should be for kind of most PGA Tour players. So again, we have to feel the rotation comes from elsewhere for me. So it'll be more in my ankles, my knees and my hips. Most golfers, recreational golfers, won't turn their hips enough and won't left bend enough. So if you're going to take anything from this video, we need to turn your hips more and left bend more. Those are the two critical things you need to do. So to feel that, get the golf club, put it in the air, left bend, turn your hips. Try and put that into a golf swing, you'll find it'll blend. So if I put the club down to the ground, step to the ball, Try and feel I'm going to left bend and turn my hips. I can't hit the ball much better than that, to be honest with you. Again, it felt more conscious. It felt like I was trying to left bend. When I watch it back in video, it probably won't look that way at all. It helps you keep centered on the ball. But we can't stress enough, this shoulder has to tilt. If I'm here, how do I get to that ball? I then have to go down and compensate in the downswing somehow. Or the arms have to lengthen and gives us that casty look. In a theory, the lower I am to the ground, the more this trail arm is going to stay bent. And then I can push up through that contact zone. So you definitely want to feel that you're very tilted, very low to the ground prior to contact, and then push up and rotate through the hitting zone, and that those arms really extend through the golf ball. And the consciousness definitely wants to be more on the follow through to target rather than to the golf ball, as I've talked about in other videos. But today really we're talking about just that shoulder. How can we turn correctly? Get the club again, put it across your chest at the front this time. Get the club head to move down. Get the rib cage to move round, and let the hips facilitate, and get that club so you're getting your rib cage level with the ball. If your right leg straightens to help you do that, don't worry, that's absolutely fine. I can show you lots of elite players who are very flexible, have a straightening right leg. I can also show you a few golfers that the right leg doesn't straighten too much. Their backswings might be a bit shorter, and if they sequence the downswing correctly, I have absolutely no problem with that. What we don't want to see is a high left shoulder and a left shoulder that is beating the turn. So the shoulder's moving across like this, but the big part of your back here isn't moving. So the rib cage isn't moving. That's a big no-no. So the more we can feel that we're almost going, rotating and getting our scapula squeezed, and then feel, okay, how do I tilt my hands? Look at my hands. Level, tilted. That's what we want to feel in the golf swing. Another great way of feeling it is putting your hand on your rib cage, here at the bottom of your rib cage, and your hand on your belt buckle. And we want to feel that these move and just feel that they squash together a little bit, just to get that rib cage working down a touch. But they are rotating a similar amount, rib cage slightly more ideally. But certainly if you're the kind of person that doesn't rotate enough, don't be scared to move them at the same rate and time, just to get that overall movement better. Ideal world, this will move. This follows when you get to that point of resistance. Left bend is crucial if you want to play successful golf. So give that a go and let me know in the comments how that feels and how you get on. But remember, don't turn your shoulders, tilt and turn your rib cage.